Hey guys, how are you? So this is an amazing interview I did with Rat's Warren DeMartini, one of the best guitar players around, right? I know you'll dig it. Please click like if you do, and I know you do. And again, this interview was from 1987. So check it out, click like, click 3 times.
Yeah, I always felt like, I didn't want to play everything I knew, because then if then there's really nowhere you get, nothing you got left, what I mean? It's like playing your whole hand right there.
That's right. I mean, do you think that that's something that maybe a lot of players do?
Yeah, especially nowadays. I hear guys that just have such incredible dexterity and technique and really clean and stuff, but just within the first half of the song sometimes, there's just, I pretty much hear the whole catalog there, So, I can appreciate the technique, but as far as listening to a whole record or anything like that, I really need something spaced out a little bit more.
I mean, for me, it was like the late '60s and all those guys, Clapton and Beck and Page and Hendrix and Townsend. I mean, there was just such, stylistically, I mean, it was just so obvious. You hear one note, and like now it's just, I don't know. Maybe I'm getting old or something.
I say the same thing. I so honest to God, I say, I must be, I don't know what is happening because, I'm actually thinking, like, what you're talking about, and it's like, I don't think so, because I think it's just a standard that is sort of set at that moment when you first kind of get into it. And for me, it was the players of the late '60s. It really was, because like Clapton and Beck were like two of my oldest brother's favorites, and he was playing it all the time when he was and I suppose around the age when it was when I started, a little older, about 19. When he was about 19 or 20, I was about around 10ish, and so I was hearing all this stuff at the time, and I got really into it, just like, that was kind of it for me. So that was what I always kind of, in the back of my, although I did change and start liking a lot of different players as time went on, that was always something that I always sort of float back to.
I mean, are there modern day players that you listen to that you could surely say that you drew something from?
I think like Stevie Ray Vaughan is someone that I've been listening to for about the last year and a half.
Really?
Ever since Let's Dance. It just sounded so. The first time I heard it, I liked it as much as I do now. You know what I mean? And that hasn't happened for me in a long time. Where I just hear like one solo and I say, and you just know. You know what I mean? I think he's like somebody that nowadays, that I really like to listen to. That's new, and Jimmy Ray as well. But I have Stevie Ray, some of his albums, both of his albums.
I mean, I get the impression from you when you name some of these guys that you like that Rat isn't the type of band I would picture you playing in. I mean, more like like a blues band or something.
Well, I think that adds a little bit of a little different element to Rat. But you're right. I mean, it is something different than the stuff that I really, was made aware of music was, the people that we were talking about. So I mean, that's kind of was the standard that was set for me in a way. So I mean, I can see what you mean.
Yeah, but I mean, I get a lot of that blues singing you're playing. I mean, not necessarily a blues, scale, but it's just, I mean, you'll slow down once in a while, and there'll be like a 2-string pull, or it'll be just a vibrato thing you'll do. I mean, it's just not that blazing thing all the time.
Yeah. I've thought a lot about that, and it did sort of sway a little bit more toward that kind of thought. But I hear blues and some of the strangest stuff. Like I think at one time Holdsworth was probably into it, because he plays a lot, but sometimes he'll throw stuff in that really like on the earlier stuff, the Tony Williams. Sometimes he'll end end stuff after this really incredible song. It was just like end with the blues. Like I died, you know. I thought it was tasteful.
I think the new album has. I think the playing is a lot more controlled.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's the right word.
I'm not big on real big on control, but I know what you mean. I don't take it like. I know what you mean by the word control, but yeah, I've been searching for a better word, but as far as my playing was in the last two, I suppose there is a bit element of control in there, a little bit of control.
I mean, where did that come from?
I guess from pulling it back a little, you know, and not, you know, just not playing so, you know, as busy, I suppose, you know. It's like, you know, if you think about it a little bit, you start to, you know, that starts to happen, I think. Whereas if when it was, you know, a couple of albums ago, I was playing, you know, really, a lot more. So, you know, there's a slight change there, I think.
Do you think the actual tone has changed?
No, not well. I get, you know, maybe because the playing is a little different. Maybe that changes. I think that changes the sound a little bit. I'm not picking any different, and my approach isn't really any different. It's just I can only say that maybe sometimes it's just pulled back a little bit. But I haven't changed my picking style. I've gone through a few. But I've pretty much stuck to the same one.
Really? Could you talk about that a bit?
Well, for a while, I was sort of holding the pick with 3 fingers, kind of like that. And sometimes if I'm just playing something that doesn't require a lot of, you know, going from string to string, then I still sort of play like that. But it was in the angle of the pick was I'll show you. I was sort of having my fingers resting on a guitar like that, and the pick was at an angle. The tip of the pick was hitting the strings at the same, right on the tip, and then I went to kind of a style like this where I was palming it more, palming the strings. But this way, I wasn't getting I didn't get a lot of what do you call it? Muting. Muting.
Damping.
I guess muting. Muting right there with this kind of thing where it's open, but the attack is a little different. You can sort of hit the string with a little kind of different. It's kind of it's hard to describe the sound. It gets a little bit, you know, it's a little brighter maybe. And then when I went to this way, it didn't change much except that I could mute it, and I had a little bit more control over the strings that would vibrate when I wasn't using them. Which when you start playing louder. And through an amp, you can have a problem with that. Some of them just start ringing away, and then you have to sort of get a sound that, you know, where it doesn't promote. You know, if you're using a real high gainy sound, you almost have to have some kind of mute there.
Right.
But if you're not, like Chris Spedding kind of has this sort of style, and he play, but his sound isn't pushing the guitar to. It's like he's making all the sound.
Right.
Whereas if you have a sound that's like sort of pushing you along, then you got to mute. That's when I went to this, you know, kind of thing. And then now I do the same kind of thing. It's muted only. I change the attack of the pick to the side, like this.
So your palm is basically resting on the bridge, and you're holding the pick just so the tape knows what we're talking about here. And the pick is held between the thumb.
The pick itself is sort of pointing at the pickup.
Well, pointing at. I see.
You see what I mean?
So you're actually using the edge.
Yeah. You know,
the whole.
So yeah, it gives it, when you're picking down, it slides real nice. Slides out, you know, you can get a little bit more arpeggiated.
Was that a conscious effort to try different?
I actually saw George playing like that. That's why George kind of has that. He you know, that's where I got the idea for the pick, and he sort of picks that same way, a little bit different, but pretty much the same way. And I sort of fluctuate between these two. You know. Between, you know, hold it like this and like...
Holding the pick with the 3 fingers and the 2 fingers. Right. I mean, George and you are a curious pair.
Yeah, I've had my ups and downs with George.
How is it that the 2 styles, to my mind, are pretty similar?
Yeah.
Would you agree with that?
Yeah. I've gotten... George has got a brilliant style, I think. A real authentic style. Because, I mean, been really playing a long time, and he has, and what I admire about George is he is genuinely was playing when a lot of the things I was into were really happening. You know what I mean? Like when, you know, I think when like the back albums were, you know, just coming out and stuff like that. I think he was like, you know, playing, whereas I started playing long after that kind of all ended. You know what I mean? So I got more of I hate the blues is the best word, but it's really not the correct word. But I got a little bit of that, a lot of that kind of element from him and another guy named Daryl. Daryl, which is at the moment unknown. He's just a friend in San Diego.
What's his last name?
Kinning. Yeah.
He's another one of those guys?
Yeah. He's
really?
He's really one of my favorites, I have to say.
Really?
He really is really special.
So you were aware of what you heard the Dokken records when you were sort of...
Yeah, and I heard like this same kind of style that I heard at Daryl with George, which was the first time I'd ever heard anything like the friend of mine ever. You know. So then, you know, that's what attracted me, you know, to seeking out and seeing George play, because you know I could hear, without even seeing him play, I could hear that he had that same thought, you know, that I was thinking about, which is to kind of to take the style of the way it was kind of and play it today, but not to where to somebody that liked it then could listen to you now playing the way people play now, but still not forgetting about that and sort of incorporating that, you know. And you know, obviously today things are flashier, and it's good and it's exciting, but I think that you gotta still keep you know, it's hard to say pick the right word, phrase for it, but standards sort of.
The roots there, you mean?
Yeah.
I think that what has happened is that a couple guys have come along and they've been real bad influences on people. I think that a lot of people try to play like these guys, and though these guys went back to the roots and were influenced by people like Blackmore or whatever, these new guys were listening to them and they kind of heard this and then they kind of jumped ahead, and there's this whole big kind of void in their playing, you know. For that reason, you sit down and listen to them and it's a lot of technique and not a lot of heart at all.
Right.
You know, and I think that's sort of what you're trying to say.
Yeah.
But yeah, could we jump back a bit? I mean, what was your playing like in the club days in San Diego? I mean, was it anything like what it is now?
It's a lot like it is now. It really is. It's more like it is now than it was, you know, the last couple of years.
Really?
Yeah. And I kind of thought about that, and I thought, you know, I was playing with more, what I thought was a little bit more feel back then, because the songs, we weren't, you know, we were just playing to play, and you know, the ideal situation was just to have a gig on a weekend, really, you know, and to be able to play, you know, for some people, and you know, and the songs were a little longer, and had a little, you know, the songs were a little bit, the whole set itself wasn't really that much in it. It was real comfortable, you know. So, you know, in a way, my playing was a little bit more like it was now. It was a little more, you know, it wasn't, you know, playing that much all the time, you know.
What was Enforcer?
That's what I'm sort of talking about now.
I see.
That was a band that I was playing with, was a band I started that was kind of, everybody had the same thing in mind, to, you know, to play, you know, mainly to work up an original set, but, you know, San Diego, that's what really makes it different, other than being smaller than like LA or New York or something. It's they don't really, it's not an original music type place. You know, a club owner is going to want something that people are, you know, already know down there, pretty much, unless it's a, you know, established act. But if you're just a band that's you know, wants to start playing its own thing, it's hard to get booked sometimes. So you'd have to kind of mix it in with, you know, some top 40 stuff.
What kind of top 40 stuff are you doing?
Closest thing I got to top 40 was, you know, like like, you know, old Scorpions and, you know, some stuff off, you know, some Shankar albums and, you know, real commercial stuff. And a couple, you know, I think they got me to play a couple songs, like, you know, a Pretender song here and there, Eddie Money song, which were at the time I was trying real hard not to play, but, you know.
When did you become aware of Jag?
Right around the same time that I met this guy that was playing with Robbin, Daryl Kinney.
Oh, he was playing with Robbin.
He was playing with Robbin. In a band down there. I mean, even though things were, it was hard to get, you know, playing original set. There was a short period of time down there when there was a lot of really good bands happening, like Jake's band, Steven's band, Robin's band, and a couple other bands that you know that were around then too, and they were all really good. And something, you know, and for a while there was this one guy who was, you know, was booking shows, and I used to surf with the guy. And he started promoting shows and down there, and he ran out these big giant halls, you know, and had these bands playing. That's kind of how I started to meet everybody, you know, like Jake, and I knew Robbin because he lived really close. We lived really close now, so I knew him. But as far as like Jake and, you know, Steven and stuff, you know, it was mainly at these gigs that, you know, I would, you know, be able to cruise around because I knew, you know, the promoter real well.
I mean, when you saw Jake play, did he do anything for you?
Yeah, he did. He did. One thing impressed me about Jake is he had an incredible ear. I mean, the stuff was really exactly right. I couldn't, especially like the way people would finger chords. You know, they changed from group to group, and I think because the way, you know, he was playing piano or something, you know, something, he could figure out the voicing. Because a lot of times people get the solos right, but, you know, the voicings on the rhythms are different. That's what kind of makes them sound different. And he got them really close, and he would, you know, he played really good. He had really good vibrato and real clean, and there was a lot of competition down there.
Was it?
There really was. I mean, him and this guy Daryl and Craig Goldie. Craig Goldie and another guy named Tom Costa. All people that you kind of hear about, and but I mean, it made things really. I mean, made everybody really practice. You know, I mean, it really. You know, now that I reminisce about it, I mean, when I got to LA, I was really expecting a similar thing, only even more. You know, because Randy and Eddie came up. From here, I was expecting, you know, that kind of same situation. But I think LA is so spread out that you know, it was like San Diego was small enough to where, you know, there was a real scene.
Right. What kinds of guitars were you playing in those days?
Well, I was playing my first. I had a Fender, a '63 Fender, which was something that I saved up for. I had a Les Paul. Well, these are all different times. I would sell one and get the other. I went from a Les Paul to a Strat to a Dean and then a friend of mine started working for Charvel, and that was when I got the connection from the underground kind of, you know, seconds, you know, black market seconds out of Charvel, you know, and I would get these, you know, guitars with really that's the one thing Grover is a fanatic about like, you know, that there can't be a this in there, can't be a that in there, you know. So eventually he found out that I was, you know, I would just get second next, second this, second that, put them together and play them, and they were great. I mean, I always, you know, I never, you know, there's a difference from the second from the first, but I really like the, you know, everything I've gotten just about as much. And then he finally said, you know, he was really cool. You know, we worked out a thing where, you know, like, you know, I could get a real guitar there and pay him off. Right? But for a while I was just getting these guitars and I would just put them together. They didn't have paint on them. You know, just the neckers.
What kind of a guitar sound were you looking for? I mean, did you know what you wanted from a guitar?
No, I never really have. I And I never really have gotten the sound that the ultimate sound is buzzing around in my head either. You know, it's I don't know if you might get that when you go on to the next wherever it is we go. You know, maybe that's when you get the tone you want. I don't know. But well, mainly kind of something that sustains but is clear, kind of like older high watts, the live at Leeds tone. That I think is a great tone. It's got kind of two worlds in it. It's got a real clean sound, but it's overdriven clean. You know, it's not. There's no fuzz. You know, it's kind of just amps working really hard. You know.
Yeah. Were you happy with the sound of your guitar on the first record?
No. You know, the guitar sound I had on the first two records was the same stuff, and you know, it was like, you know, we only really got, and there wasn't, when we got a deal, it wasn't like, you know, everybody, you could sort of update your stuff somewhat, but mainly the most of it was put towards the recording costs. So I mean, it's like, it was like, well, you know, I didn't really have the sound I wanted, but I didn't really have the time to sort of. It takes time to develop that, and it's not like the kind of thing where you could just go out and get it anyway. So I ended up using the same stuff that I had, and I wasn't real pleased. You know, it wasn't this equipment that I really liked too much.
What was the stuff that you used?
It was like a newer Marshall. I don't know the year. It was pre-CBS. I mean post-CBS. And orange cabinets with orange, and I think I might have borrowed some Marshall cabinets. Yeah, I think like 30 watts the last year.
30 watts.
And the guitar, and it was with the white Charvel. And that was like, out of all the Charvels I've had, I think that was like the least, the one that, I mean, it was like on the lower of the better sounding ones.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but it was like the only, at that time, it was the only one I had. So.
These are the first two Atlantic records we're talking about now?
Oh no, the EP and the
first record.
The first record. After the first record, that is when we sort of searched out and got some better stuff.
What kind of pickup was on that Charvel?
Up until this album, I've used JB, Seymour Duncan JB.
I heard that you used Dan Armstrong.
Yeah. For one tour, for the tour, I used Dan Armstrong. Yeah, a friend of mine, that was working right across the street, really close to the village. I had him do some work on my guitar, and we were working on it, and he told me about about the Dan Armstrong pickups, and that they were handmade, and I like the sound of his guitar, so I bought two of them, and I put one in the sword one and one in the skull and crossbones one, and I did a whole tour with those two.
What is it about the JB pickups that you like?
That the output isn't fuzzy at all. You're not getting the distortion from the pickup. I don't think you should attempt to get distortion from the pickup because it's sort of picking up what the strings are doing, and it's a clean thing, a guitar, you know. And the output of that should be pretty much as close to that as you can get it, I think. And then you sort of make the sound different after it goes into wherever it's going. So whether you turn it up or you use an equalizer or wrap distortion or whatever, I think that's where you should get the gain, not some. I think a high output pickup is okay, but just not something that that isn't clean. Like if it was plugged in direct to something, like into a real clean sound, it would still come out that way.
And you said you've changed pickups since? You're using somebody else now?
Yeah. In this last album, I used the white Charvel that has the writing on it, and it has a prototype, a Charvel prototype pickup in it. And I sort of been here and now and then, working, trying to experiment with the Charvel pickups, but I get so far with that, you know, taking the strings on and off, and you know, it's like I forget what this sounded like, and you know, it ends up being, I end up kind of being more confused than I was, you know. And if you try using different pickup and a different guitar, I mean, a guitar is different as anything. It can be different, so I mean, it's really kind of a chasing your tail. It can be a chasing your tail type thing.
Yeah.
I always end up doing that. So.
Were you happy with the sound on this record?
Yeah, I was, you know, it's funny because we did the Out of the Cellar at the Village, then we went to Rumbo and did Invasion, your privacy, and then we went back to the Village and did this one. And I found that the Village really has its own, you know, I thought that, you know, that I didn't think that a room made much difference with a really loud Marshall one's mic'd up close, but I guess it has to, because I really got it. Even though the rooms were similar, you know, those studios, the sound was a lot different. It really was. I think this one sounds a little bit more like Out of the Cellar than it would in Invasion. Yeah.
You record dry?
Yeah.
Would you record straight in to the cabinet and?
Yeah, straight.
Really?
Chord, you know, turned up. Yeah. That's really you know, in the studio, that's really all I need, because you can get it as loud as you want it in the control room and hear it back any way you want, and still be printing it dry. So you know, in actuality, you're playing dry and it's going dry to the tape, but you can be monitoring it, you know, any way you want.
Right.
So that, you know, that's I've sort of gotten. I eventually get really used to that, so that the sound doesn't have to be real. I think the less overdriven the sound is, the more you can sort of hear the difference in the strings and stuff. You know.
Are you still using Marshalls?
Yeah.
Old one, new one?
Old ones. I'm not sure of the year. One's got kind of a plasticky looking, plastic-ish base on it. Metal with, I don't know what over it. And they're I don't know how long they made those, but those seem to sound the best.
And that white Charvel was the main guitar you used, you said?
Yeah, I used it on the whole thing. The last year, the sword guitar sounded just great, and this year, I think since the tour and stuff, the pickup's a little kind of a little tired, maybe time for a change, you know. But I tried changing it, but it's still just you know, this guy that works at for Grover came out to the studio, and like, you know, we went through a few different things, and what ended up being in the white guitar really matched the white guitar really well, because the sound was real even, and it just, you know, it was everything that I wanted. So the other ones weren't doing that. I think you almost have to match the pickup to the guitar, you know, and that takes it takes doing that. It's tedious. Yeah.
Yes. Could you talk about some of the solos on the record? The body talk solo. I thought that was great. I mean, just what goes through your mind when you have a track like that, and how would you approach a solo like that, or I mean, what?
Well, for me, that's the hardest. For me right now, that's the hardest thing to do, is to do a kind of a play to a fast song, because it's so easy to just go on and on and on and on. You know, like me. You know, it's real easy to do that song. You know, that one, strangely enough, came off like I think the second time I tried it.
Right.
You know, I got real lucky. You know, it was the fifth or sixth song we did, and I was must have been feeling okay that day, because it didn't take long.
What about like Take a Chance?
Yeah, that one. I think that's my favorite song and some of the soul stuff in there.
Really?
Yeah, because the song is a little slower, and the spaces are a little wider. So I mean, it was like there was more room to just stretch out a little bit, you know. So that one came out really good for me. I like listening to that.
I mean, what notes do you pick that? I mean, I know it's a style, but I mean, what notes would you pick that? I mean, I would know listening to you. It's a Warren DeMartini slope, but how would I know that? I mean, are there certain notes that you would pick out of a scale, or is there a certain note that you would pick out of a chord that's changing behind the solo that would... I guess what I'm asking is, how would you analyze the kind of scale or run or thing that you would use? I mean, could you...
Yeah, it always changes, because depending on where the chords go that you're soloing on, and like sometimes there's certain songs where just certain notes just don't work, and I don't really know why. They just don't work against what the chord is, and I think that's part of what being able to play jazz is about, is understanding why that is and where you should go. That's something I've always been pretty haven't been able to grasp.
Right.
Yeah, because I tried a few taking like a couple classes on it, the theory classes, and it started to get mathematical, and it just lost me,
Right.
So what ends up happening is like over a thing like that kind of thing. There's only a certain. It's almost a major. There's only certain stuff that'll work in there, and which means what I'm driving at means there's some places you can't go that you're always used to going, and if you do go there, you're just kind of lost, and so that's when I just have to I just sort of work around the thing until I find the notes, and then I play around with that till I get comfortable with that either position or that scale or something, and then it sort of takes shape from there.
Do you know when you've played a solo that works? Can you feel that you've got it down?
But sometimes what happens is I get like 2 or 3 that are about the same, and then to choose from those, that's where when things get where things get either or, this or that, when they get up to it's just about as good, and that's when I really can't judge too good, That's when I have to say to whoever's around, what do what jumps out at you,
Right. What kind of a sound do you look for in your solo? How do you like the guitar to sound?
I just like it to be clarable, clear, and lately I've started to want more of the the sound of the guitar to come out. Like if you have a real EQ'd sound or affected guitar, a lot of times the guitar, you can plug any guitar in there and it sounds the same. So since I stopped using all effects, I've really started to notice the difference in even chords, and guitars mostly. And that's the first thing I started to really notice the difference in the sound of the way each guitar reacts. And then eventually I got to the point where I could notice the difference in a chord.
Really?
When we were playing live, from a 20-foot to a 30-foot to this one or that one. It started to get kind of eerie,
In fact, Robbin had mentioned that you were going wireless for a while, and then you plugged back in. You didn't dig it.
Yeah. I was going wireless, and I had a rack of effects and stuff, which I was used to using, which I've been playing with for a while. But then I found that when I wanted to get the guitar to sound clear, it just wouldn't go there. It just couldn't go there. It's too much in the way. So I went back to a chord, and eventually got used to that. That was a real nightmare first,
What's this doing?
Chord, all of a sudden I got a chord, no juice to cover things up with, and it was awful. But eventually, I kind of woke up and.
So you use no effects live?
Not in the line. There's some on the board for certain parts. If the song has a, if it was on the record, then I leave that up to the engineers.
So you don't even know what kind of stuff.
I don't even know. I have no idea.
What about on the record? What kinds of stuff do they process it with afterwards?
Well, on this album I used the lexicon that I was using. Which sounds really good, through a board, but it just didn't sound like good through my amps. Lexicon 4042.
42.
Yeah. I use that for the echo thing and dance.
Yeah. When you use any kind of a chorus or a
a little AMS chorusing on Body Talk. the beginning, you know, this, whatever, you know. You know, there has to be an AMSI, which is cool because it can break up the chorusing from speaker to speaker. So you get one, signal doing one thing and the other doing another. It's just pretty neat. But it's that I don't think you could ever plug into one. It's the kind of thing you'd always have to have in the mix.
Right. So it just seems like really where you've gotten to is that the way that you play, and because you tend to be a pretty fast player, that the only way you can really create the sound that you need is not to have anything else in the line. I think that's really, it's come back to the essential.
I went right back to where I was, 3 years ago.
Yeah.
When I couldn't afford it, the effects. It's the same thing. Marshall had this great Marshall. It was a tremolo head. It's called the Grenade. It was the baddest head. It was great. It was it was like a little charred here and there. And then eventually just, burnt the transformer right. It melted it, it had this stuff coming out.
Yeah.
I forget why, but it just, and ever since I replaced transformer, it just didn't have it anymore. There was a time there right before it went, a couple weeks, when it was just, I didn't need another thing, guitar, chord, and amp, it was great. I've always wanted to find something like that again.
Yeah. So live, you go out with what? The Marshall?
Yeah. Well, when I went on the beginning of the last tour, I had about 8 heads with me, and 41 or 42, and a wireless, and this and that, and then after a few weeks, I ended up nixing everything, going into 1 or 2 heads.
Really?
Through 1 or 2 cabinets.
Marshall cabinets?
Yeah.
With the 30 watts?
30 watts, yeah. I have one cabinet with 25 watt that I didn't tour with to save for the studio, but that one, I blew the speaker out when we were right when I started doing the solos.
Right.
And it sounded great last year, and I guess, gave it its all.
You can hear the difference between the 30 watt speakers and 25 watt speakers?
Yeah, I think it's a huge difference.
Right.
Yeah, the 25, it won't go as loud. It'll only go to a certain volume. And then after that, anything before that and at that point, it is a little warmer. The 30 watts will go louder, and you can get them to be warm, but it requires a lot more output than the 25s. The problem is there's no 25s left anywhere.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I mean, if there is, I haven't run into them. Because I've been, it's been on my mind,
You use the slant cabinets?
No, it's straight.
Really? Somebody else does that too, and I can't think who it was. But is there a reason why?
Yeah, I like. I don't like a straight-on speaker blast. I like, I like it to be, kind of going. If it's going straight out, then I just get, I get a little bit of room ambience there. If you're standing right in front of a cabinet, you don't get any ambience. You just get straight speaker blast. And that tends to be a little harsh sometimes. So I like the straight one, so I can, so it's not going right at my head. So I can hear it, but I'm also getting, a little room sound too.
Could you talk a little bit about the second record? Well, first off, what is it like playing with Robbin? Does that have a big? I mean, if you were to play in a band with you as his only guitar player, do you think you'd be playing differently?
I would be playing with the, I would be playing with the one guitar player theory, thought, which is different than two guitars. I can do both because I did play, just one guitar for a long time.
Was Enforcer a one guitar band?
Yeah, one guitar band, bass, drums, singing, and guitar. But I mean, I can't say my playing really has changed. But when you play in a one guitar band, you need to. There's a lot more to fill up. So I think the playing style changes a little bit that way. You're you're completely responsible for that end of the sound. Whereas with two guitars, you're working off more of a, you know, a fuller sound that way, a little bit more stereo-ish, you know. So you know, I really, you know, I have a good time with both. You know, I can, you know, I still like to, you know, I play all the time. You know, I play all the time, so you know, I'm playing myself. You know, but I mean, you know, I enjoy both. And working with Robbins. If I was going to work with another guitarist, you know, I like working with Robbin because, you know, he gives me the space. You know, he gives me the space, and he's, you know, we've always gotten along, and we've always kind of been, you know, hanging around together, you know, like for a long time. So I mean, kind of, you know, I couldn't really think of anybody else I really want to play with.
How is Robbin's sound different than yours?
It's a little bit more affected, a little bit. It's my sound is a little kind of is directional. It's a little tighter. And it's sort of attackish, a little bit more attack. His sound is a little bit sort of fuller, bigger, you know, a little, you know, kind of about that chorusy tone, you know.
Has he helped
A little
you?
bassier.
His tone?
Yeah.
Has he helped you, or have you helped him in terms of rhythm playing? I read somewhere once that you felt you were kind of lacking in that area.
Yeah, well, you know, when I started playing in bands, you know, it was something I noticed. That and that I couldn't play standing up. Yeah, because I mean, you know, I would just, you know, if you don't practice standing up, you can't play standing up. You know?
That's really true.
It really is. I had to.
Because the angle of your hand is totally.
Sure. Yeah, I got completely used to it. I mean, my stretch was incredible, and you know, I could just, you know, just blaze and no problem. It started standing up. It was a whole different story. All of which needed work, you know. But yeah, you know, his I think his playing has improved. You know, if you search it out, you know, or if it's right there, you know, you tend to absorb what people are doing. You know, I mean, I've learned everything. I just say I learned something from every guitar player I've ever seen. You know, and I've you know, in that wide spectrum, you know, a lot of things. You know, a lot of different kind of style players have you know, influenced me a lot. My left hand, mainly my left hand style I got from this classical guitarist Lee Ryan, who's really, you know, a real exceptionally good classical guitar.
Really?
Yeah, and I took lessons from him for a while. Ended up, you know, he let me go because I wasn't learning anything. I was just watching him, you know, and listening to him play, you know. Yeah, and I wasn't, you know, couldn't sit down long enough to learn how to read. So I mean, you know, a lot of the stuff, you know, I was used to, like, you know, going over to you know, so-and-so's and, you know, how do you do that again, you know, or, you know, whatever. But, you know, it's the way he was teaching people was through songs and written out text. And that whole thing. So, I mean, you know, if it was the type thing where he was showing me, you know, song as it goes along, it'd be fine. But, well, so I ended up really just kind of hanging out as long as I could, just to see him play. But his left hand was just, that's one thing that kind of stuck with, definitely, you know, at the finger picking, I didn't pick out that well at the time. But the left hand, the way his left hand was, rubbed off definitely.
Really, in terms of
keeping your fingers straight to the string. I suppose, you know, well, for classical guitars, I suppose I had a lazy technique, you know, which I changed and got, you know.
What about in terms of where you rest your thumb? Is that a classical thing? Doesn't the classical put it down?
Yeah,
below?
classical player does. Yeah.
That's how you keep it?
Yeah, it moves pretty much all over. But yeah, when I'm playing certain things, especially scale things where I have a wide spread, it's right down on the, you know.
Almost underneath the neck.
Almost, almost about a 45-degree angle, right here. Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah, so I'm actually really glad that I did, you know, did do that because.
When did you take those lessons?
When I was 11th grade. 11th, 12th grade, something like that.
But you've been playing electric guitar already?
I've been playing electric guitar already, yeah.
Yeah. That's amazing. What about your right hand? I mean, you mentioned George. Was there anyone else?
Yeah, George and Daryl and Eddie. Eddie's got a tremendous, really, I mean, really revolutionized, I think, the way rhythm playing is these days. His attack of his rhythm playing is really, right now, what I like best about him.
Really?
Yeah. That's one thing that I always really thought, he really has a rhythm about his right hand. So I mean, him and George is from that same style. I hate putting people together, but it's sort of from that same sort of thing. And like Holdsworth and Holdsworth, who my friend really liked, who Daryl, who was Daryl's favorite. So he incorporated kind of a style, blues style, and a Holdsworth style, which was just amazing.
And wasn't Crimson somebody else?
Yeah, I like Adrian Blue a lot. Yeah.
More than Fripp.
More than Fripp, yeah. I like Fripp more on like Scary Monsters. I really like playing that a lot. On the Crimson stuff, I like the stuff that Adrian Blue writes, and the way that they work together is real interesting. And I also love Bill Bruford a lot. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's just.
Edward liked him too.
Yeah, I mean he's like one of a kind and stuff like that. I mean it was like the kind of thing that would spread like wildfire down there, because among the guitar crowd, it was like everybody was real into those albums.
How important is the rhythm section in terms of how you play? Do you think if you played with?
You mean like bass and drums? A real important, I think that's the most important thing and most overlooked thing in a band. Like, that makes a band. If a band is great, I think that is the first element that makes it great, and that's like the most overlooked thing. First thing people overlook. Entwistle and Moon and John Paul Jones at bottom and stuff. I mean, those are some winning nominations.
Yeah.
They really are. I think it's the most important thing.
Getting back to your technique, is it a fairly vigorous attack? I mean, do you pick fairly hard?
Not especially. The pick doesn't move much, but the attack is hard. And I use it dynamically. Like if there's a certain note that I want to stick out, I'll hit it a little harder. But no, it's pretty consistent. Pretty much. But I mean, but I change. Every so, like I'm not sure exactly how long it is, but I get bored with where I'm at sometimes.
So you'll consciously seek out.
And I'll consciously just change. Because I think the right hand really kind of dictates what the left hand can do. So, and that's what kind of changes styles is that kind of the way you hold it and where it's hitting and stuff like that. And there's so many different ways. There's really 1,000 different ways to pick, And I'd like to to get as many different ones as I can.
Do you basically pick up and down?
Basically, yeah. Because
there's a guy, Frank Gambale. I don't know if you know Frank from GIT. He's got a thing. I don't know what the name of it is. Economy picking. But if you were like you had three notes on the E string and one on the A string, normal would be in like down, up, or up, down, up. Alternate. But with this thing, it's like
Is it down, up, down, up?
Exactly.
Right.
So you go to the next string with one motion, which is.
I forget the name of that. That's the way Daryl played, which made him so incredible. Which made his playing so hard to understand.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? It really makes it just almost impossible to figure out how it is, because you can play it going down, up, down, up, down, up, and it won't come out the same, and on the last note won't come out the same.
Exactly.
But I think that's the hardest way. That's really a really difficult way to get good, to get good, because it's a real rhythmic picking style. But anyone can do that. I think it's A-okay.
Yeah. How long have you been using a metal pick?
About 2 years.
Really?
Yeah. Back when I was hanging around with George, if you have a real dirty sound, a steel pick can clean it up. You know, they'll destroy the strings, but it will, and they're so thin, you know, really thin, and they don't bend at all. And now when I pick up a heavy Fender pick or something, it just seems awkward for me because it's so big. For me, you know, it's like the information that is going on here is exactly the same as here all the time. You know what I mean? Yeah. So even though you're making the movement here, this is like, it feels like it's that much more accurate, you know.
More precise. More
precise. So I haven't been able to change, but I sort of wanted to go back to a plastic pick, because my strings just, you know, I can't use one guitar for the whole set if I wanted to.
Really?
Even if it stayed in tune, you know, because eventually the D string just goes down to nothing to like, you know, the bone, right? The bone that goes through. It does, and you know, once that happens, man, it's like you hit the D string, it goes, you know, it sort of dies, you know.
Yeah. Have you found there are certain strings which tend to work well with that kind of pick?
Yeah, the top three work just really great with it. You know, when I'm real loose and warmed up, you know, it seems like you know, it's you know, the top three really, you know, I can really get pretty outside and stay real accurate with it and stay real clean. I can play faster, but it still stays the same consistency as it does when I play slow. Same kind of attack. The lower ones, it makes it a little harder because it gets caught up on the E a little bit, you know, when they're new. Before it gets worn down a little bit, it gets kind of caught up there, you know, so it's hard. But I don't really play a lot of fast scales on the lower strings. It just, to me, it doesn't come out that well. It, you know, no matter how clean you get it, it just doesn't, for me, it doesn't sound that right. I think those strings are for different stuff.
More chordal stuff, maybe.
Just more. I like bending them and yeah, chord stuff. I mean, I do play. You know, I play up here, but mainly when I'm playing fast scale stuff, I prefer the upper string. I can play pretty much as accurately on both, but I prefer, you know, I usually end up up there. So maybe next year it'll all be on these three.
What kind of strings do you use?
Ernie Ball, 10s, stainless steel 10s.
Do you set your action pretty low?
About medium.
Medium?
About medium. When I'm on the road, it comes up a little bit.
Really?
And then it's. I wouldn't say it was high even then. It's about medium. It's not so low that I get a lot of fret buzz. Fret. I don't. That's something that I can't really tolerate too much. When it gets so low that it starts buzzing. But just above that, I'd say. Yeah.
Do you like high profile frets?
Yeah.
You do?
Yeah.
What about your approach to the vibrato bar?
Well, lately it's been pretty back burnerish, you know.
Yeah. It's not too much.
Yeah. In fact, I think I just use it on one solo on. What I use vibrato bar now for is to get below this. To get below this line here. If there's a note that I want to go to that's past this, then I use it to get there, you know. But it's usually
below E.
Huh?
Below an E.
Below an E, yeah.
Oh,
or I mean, if it happens to be on one of these strings, or if I'm playing, you know.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
You know what I'm saying? It's
actually, if you're on that fret.
Yeah. If I want to go down here and I don't want to change strings, because I've gotten to where I can go, you know, note-wise, pretty much. You know, I can go down a whole step or a whole step and a half. You know.
You can feel that.
I can feel right where that is, you know, and I can do that. And what I really like vibrato for the best is when it floats and you can get it both ways, you know, similar to like a slide vibrato. I like the way that feels, and I like the way it sounds. But for me, I can't do it because I still rest my hand on the bridge a lot, and it kind of sounds. it sort of sounds out of tune sometimes.
Right,
You know,
right.
if I'm,
Uh-huh.
especially live.
Uh-huh.
But I like that for the best. I don't really like, you know, a lot of wild dive bombs that much anymore.
Yeah, that's not your...
That's not my thing so much.
Yeah.
Not at the moment.
That was Ed's problem too. He his just goes down because he rests his palm there too,
Mm-hmm.
and he said the same thing.
Yeah, it's but I really like this. I wish there was a medium there, but I haven't found it.
Mm-hmm.
But I like that vibrato a lot. So unless it's a thing, but live, there's the energy's really, it depends. It depends what I'm doing. If I'm working on a song, I really don't use it too much. But live, it's fun to grab now and then.
Mm-hmm. The Floyd Rose is what you use.
Yeah, that's what I use. It seems to be the best for me right now.
Mm-hmm.
What I like best about them is they're pretty durable, pretty strong, and that's good for live guitar when you're traveling all over the place. They're not too finicky. They're pretty tough.
What about your finger vibrato?
That's something I worked on. I've been working at almost all the time I'm playing.
Really?
Yeah, like Leslie West, people like Leslie West and Michael Schenker and Gary Moore. I mean,
yeah,
it's it's a special thing.
Because this it's like because there's so much speed involved. A lot of guys don't slow down, so guys don't really work on it. There's no room for it sometimes.
Right? Sure, I know. I think it's important to have. I always tend to like guitars with a good vibrato. A little more. I like listening to guitars with a good vibrato as opposed to one with bad one or none at all.
Do you still practice?
Yeah, I do. I practice. Well, nowadays it's. I usually motivated to practice by something. Something will inspire me, or I don't have a set time too much. And the only time I really had a set time to practice was when I had set times to do other things, such as school or some kind of job or something where I wasn't around the guitar. But and then that would sort of systematically make whenever I wasn't doing anything, that would be when I would work at it. But nowadays it's pretty much when nothing else is happening, which ends up being all the time. So usually sometime during the day I play for a while.
Because it seems like you're one of those people who, according to Robbin and some people I've spoken to, that just in a very short time you got very confident.
especially the speed. Speed came real quick, so a lot of things suffered in it, and I had to work up. I had to, I had to work it out later. No easy way around the block,
Right. I don't know how much feedback you've gotten back, but a lot of guys I talk to see you and George to some extent as kind of like those guys I don't know how to say it, it's about making you feel funny or sound corny, but as one of the guys kind of in the forefront of like this next style. Do you feel because everybody's kind of looking at you and looking at the next record and gonna, go check you out in the next gig, any kind of a pressure or, come up with something new?
It can be terrifying, because I didn't really set out. I wasn't applying for it, I really wasn't. Never was into the competition part of it.
You weren't?
No, and that's really kind of why I ended up choosing it when I did, because it wasn't a competitive thing, like same with like surfing, or something like that, or anything that you do like that. It's kind of it's just you and whatever it is you're doing, and I like that part of it because you could improve at your own rate, and you could and put into it as much as you felt like it, and there wasn't anybody hanging around telling you weren't doing it right or weren't, whatever. So nowadays, because some people are kind of competitive that way, I tend to kind of feel strange sometimes. I'm sort of put into a situation that I really really never really expected or wanted to be. always wanted to be good, and I always wanted to be working, you know, playing. I really enjoyed that. But as far as like the you know, the competition part of it, I really didn't want it.
You don't want to be a guitar
No.
hero?
Well, you know, I you know, it's not that I didn't want to be admired, but I didn't want to be to the point where you know, it wasn't a creative thing.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I think it stopped being a creative thing with some people. So, you know, what are you doing? This is Kathy, Steve, Rosen.
Yeah.
Oh.
How are you? Alright. Good to see you. So the guitar hero thing was not your reason to be?
No, it wasn't. I mean, I always knew that I had something to say with it. I know. But I'm not. I never wanted to be. You know, and I didn't want to be to where like. But I mean, it eventually ends up happening. But I say I never really. Maybe I didn't expect it so fast or something.
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes, you know, it gets kind of strange. You know, when you're out and about and you see people.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. You played on the hearing aid, was that it?
Mm-hmm.
You didn't play on that? When all those guys played? The thing with the
deal with
that?
I missed it.
Were you in that Charvel ad? When all those guitar players
No,
were
I
you
missed
in
that
that
one too.
I mean, would you actively go out and go see a new band? I mean, you know, if you heard about a guitar player, would you go?
I thought, you know, I heard a guitar player the other day. It was really, I thought he was really good. Either was teaching at GIT or works there, or what was his name?
Paul Gilbert?
Yeah.
Really?
Gilbert?
Yeah, Paul Gilbert.
Paul Gilbert.
Yeah.
Yeah, I heard some of his music. I thought it sounded good.
Really?
Yeah. I suppose I would maybe go and see if they were playing.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like to really go out too much.
No.
Unless it's like Johnny whatever.
It's amazing that you would pick out Johnny Winter in towns and stuff, you know, 'cause
because I capture live stuff, and then I think
Johnny Winter and
Johnny Winter and yeah, that's it. Yeah, I think I mean he picks just I think really good.
Johnny, he
was
incredible.
Just I mean he's just right in the pocket all the time.
Mm-hmm.
You know, never you really don't hear him out of the pocket very often.
No.
And to me that means that this is a real being one with the guitar kind of. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I guess that's kind of a way of summing up what I've kind of been after is to be one with the thing to where it's genuinely an extension, which happens. I suppose the more the further on the more you work in it or play, the more you play, then that starts happening. I think that's with him. I think that's kind of what it's about.
Yeah. I think it's a rare case when it does happen. I think you've got to be like a Johnny Winter or just because I don't think years alone can make that happen. It's just
no, not years alone. No,
but relationship that you have with the instrument. I mean,
yeah.
I mean, I've met a lot of guys, and I mean, I hate to keep bringing up Edward, but I mean, he'll just sit there and he'll just hold the guitar. And I know this might sound dumb, but he'll just without plugged in, and he'll just strum it, and just something, the way his hand is on the neck, there's just something, like if you were to see Van Gogh painting, or Van Gogh was, there's just something about it that's really, that thing you're talking about.
Yeah, that really, I mean, when that album came out, that inspired me, that and a couple other key things.
The first Van Halen record?
Yeah, to start playing. I made an attempt after I saw a Who concert in 71, something, 69, 70. I made an attempt then to play, but that didn't work out. It was just too complicated. And
what do you mean it's too complicated?
I couldn't. I had no concept of even where the strings, when they're open, were supposed to be.
Really?
Tuned. Yeah. I mean, and didn't know how you found out. I thought only the people that play knew. I'm serious. I got a guitar, and my mom plays piano, and I got the guitar, and I said, how do you tune it? What notes do you tune? Well, because I knew that I could match it up with the piano. She goes, well, okay, well, what are the notes? Sat down with the piano and said, what are the notes? I said, I don't know. And then, you know, they ended up being, you know, the difference between the G and the B. You know. So I mean, you know, I couldn't. I just, you know, it just was way over my head.
Mm-hmm.
You know, just way. I was more drummer than.
Really?
Yeah, because I could keep, you know, I could pound away on a table and you know, play perfect as a, you know. But yeah, that's one. The drums and guitar really stuck out when I was, you know, back then. Like, you know, I really learned parts, and you know, in my head, I knew exactly where everything was.
Yeah.
And
that's interesting.
so, you know, I knew with the guitars, but you know, when you watch someone play, you're seeing it backwards first of all, and then so that it's confusing, and then it's really those first couple of weeks I thought were the hardest for me. You know, just.
Really?
Yeah, but then, you know, right after I really remember right after I, you know, learned Train Kept a Rollin' or you know, Bridge of Sighs. You know, right at that point, I figured out, I knew that if the guitar was in tune, that I could, if the guitar was in tune with the album, that I could eventually figure out anything that was on it. You know, because it's just right in this space, you know, from here to here, and if the guitar itself is matched up, then you kind of, you know, can sort of listen to it.
Really?
Yeah, so that's kind of how I kind of got started. But starting was a bitch, really was. I mean, you know, I almost didn't play at all. The first time I started, you know, it didn't happen then. And then, you know, when I was 15, you know, I started again, and it was just hard.
So how old were you the first time?
15. First time I was about 7 or 8. I think I was about 8. And
then you were 15 when you heard the...
When I heard, yeah.
When you heard the Who concert?
No, I was about 7 or 8 when I saw the Who, and I was 15 when Van Halen came out with that first album. And it was like that album was like Live at Leeds was for me, you know, 10 years before that. So, you know, that got me into it.
Did your mom ever try to give you piano lessons?
She didn't, but she got them for me, and that ended up being the kind of a chore, you know. I didn't like the teacher because he didn't seem to be having a good time, you know. He had, you know, all these kids coming in and you know, every day and stuff, and he was, seemed to me, he was, well, I guess I don't know, because I don't know if I could really teach, so it's like I don't know if I can relate to it, but I didn't like it, so you know, eventually, you know, what are you gonna do? She finally said, okay, forget it. You know, before that was cello. I wanted to start on the drums. Yeah, and you know, when they had the seminar, you know, when we were in 6th grade, and they said we're gonna be adding a music class to the school, and you know, you can choose now. You can get the instrument for, you know, rent it for this or something. And it sounds like drums, you know. And you know, it's too loud or something. And she got me cello. I don't know why. Why cello?
Did you play it at all?
Yeah, I played it for a while, and I did good up until I had to memorize notes on it. As soon as, you know, I had to memorize notes with no dots, no nothing, and I didn't really know what separated them. That's when you know, it's about as far as I got with that.
Do you think any of the cello technique shows up on guitar?
No, not at all. This was, you know, before I even heard Hendrix, I think, you know. Yeah. This was the first thing.
What was the very first guitar you got?
It was a Seymour Les Paul. Seymour? Yeah. It's like one of those, you know, $50 things at those music stores that have everything but don't have anything. You know, one of those guitars.
But I mean, you found that like the Strat types were what you felt comfortable with.
Yeah, it ended up being that way. I like the sound of them most of all.
Really?
Yeah. They had a certain kind of almost transparent sound sometimes. Kind of that Hendrix stuff, the Band of Gypsy stuff, some of the stuff when it turns down. Has a real, I don't know, ambient. The guitar itself is just really, the sound comes across, so, you know, that's what I ended up liking.
Yeah. And you mentioned that speed came very quickly?
Yeah, pretty much. That was the that was the first thing that was easy. So that was what I really went after. And I mean, after I started, I was hanging around with a friend of mine that I surfed with, and that played really good too. He's my age, and he was like really into Scorpions, Shanker, and Trower, and so I eventually got into those old Scorpion albums, In Trance, Taken by Force, those and some of the older UFO stuff. But most of the UFO stuff. I ended up liking some of the earlier stuff and some of the later stuff. All of it, pretty much. So and those guys can play fast, so and when the more I got into them, and Eddie, of course, the more I got into that, the more I wanted to be able to play like that. But to play like that, I think correctly, you should. All those guys listened to kind of what I was listening to when I was really young, you know what I mean? But we're working it, and then that evolved into the newer thing. Right. Now to just go straight, skip over everything, go straight to Eddie, me, George, or something like that. Right. I mean, there's an element of sort of, I don't know, seasoning sort of there, that's underneath everything. Right. And somebody that just that would just start today, I sort of worry about it. Right. And that is partially why I brought it back a little bit in this album. I wanted to stress that a little bit more, so that maybe somebody is figuring it out, and they'll get a little bit of that, the song. Yeah.
That's interesting. We're talking about developing speed and the whole thing. It's curious that one thing you don't do a lot of is, or at least I don't hear that much, is the hammer stuff.
Yeah, I can. And it's a great thing that. You like this song? Iggy Pop?
I just saw the video. I think it's a video. Yeah, I've never been a big Iggy fan. You like it?
I like this song.
Sounds like Billy Idol.
Sounds like cross for me. It sounds like a cross between Frank Zappa and Bowie, kind of.
Yeah, he does.
He's got that low voice like Frank.
He does sound like Zappa. Actually. Yeah.
I like Frank too.
So would you actually? Would you take like a tape home from the studio and come and stick it on?
No. This is all just to experiment with stuff, and the only reason I went to a deck like that is just to kind of try and understand the whole process a little more
of recording.
Yeah, because oftentimes I find that there's a communication gap between me and the producer as to what I'm driving at. And sometimes I just can't find the words, Yeah. And then I end up getting, unhappy.
How important is Beau Hill in terms of the sound of the guitar and
as far as the sound, not at all.
No.
He's not a real guitar-oriented producer. He really works more on songs. So he gives me for every good and bad sound, it's pretty much my for me, because he leaves it really up to the guy. This last album I ended up doing most of the solos. He wasn't even there.
Really?
He would just come and listen to it in the morning.
Do you do the solos in the booth?
No.
You're out there in the studio?
No, sometimes I play out in the studio, sometimes it's in the control room.
I meant in the control room, sorry.
Yeah. The control room, after a while, I can get used to. But it's a real change, going. It's like losing your jacket or something. Going out and all of a sudden you realize it's freezing, and you don't have it. And you're trying to think where it went. It's really weird because I'm used to having a lot of bass bouncing around and the vibration and that doesn't happen. It changes. It's so controlled in there. It's like it's pretty scary at first. It really takes some getting used to it, especially when it goes to slave. When the whole thing goes in, when working off a slave reel, then because you don't have the original, you know, bass and drum sound and rhythm guitar sound. That just takes a big drop, and then it's just, you really have to be patient, you know.
Is the sound that you hear coming from your amp pretty much what goes on tape? I mean, do you ever listen to it afterwards and say, that's not what I heard?
Yeah, all the time.
Really?
All the time, yeah. Yeah, and I found that you really have to just step back and listen to it as a whole and see if you can hear, because I don't know just how close the sound that we get is to the sound that I had in mind. I don't really know how to measure that. So it always seems to me kind of a little bit different. So yeah, I find that I have to just kind of to try and be objective and listen to it as a whole and see if it's coming off as a whole. A lot of times you don't really know what it sounds like until you're on the mix and you're working off both reels, and then it's too late. By the time you get there, you know, your equipment's a little long gone. You know, there's no time to go back.
Right.
That's something I'd like to change. You know,
Like you have more of a.
I would like to be able to go back and change things if I want. You know, be in a situation that is laxed enough. There's no, you know, where there's nobody's got anywhere to go, and you know, you could, you know, like some artists take, you know, a couple of years. I think that's where the months and years come in. Or, you know, someone spends 2 years on an album. You know, first thing you think is, well, on what? You know, you go into the studio. Generally, you have stuff already worked out somewhat. So what takes up all the time? I'm starting to think it must be just, you know, going back and forth, and you know, listening to stuff and going back, changing if you want. You know.
Yeah.
But then I guess that has its own, you know, good and bad side all of its own.
Yeah.
You can end up really, you know, taking a long time and not getting the you know, not getting not getting it back.
Is it loud in the studio? I mean, is the Marshall pretty well?
Yeah, it's real loud. In fact, Bo doesn't even go into the room where the amp is. Yeah, he just says, when you get a sound, I'll be in the lounge.
Where do you set like volumes and things on the Marshall? Is there a place where you know that it's gonna?
No, I just sort of just play for a while, walk around the room while I play, and then work at it from there. It's usually, I find that it sounds best just before it gets all the way up, right? The last two numbers, right around there, because on the Marshall, some of the Marshalls I was using, they wouldn't change much from 0 to 5, and then they would get really loud at 6, and then I don't know if that's just, you know, the amp just doesn't want to play quiet or what, but it ends up, you know, where you're really only working with, you know, not very much.
Yeah.
So, yeah. I think Marshalls either just sound pretty good or they sound pretty bad.
Yep.
You know, you turn them on and you turn it up, and that's pretty much all you got.
Right.
The EQ on those things is, you know, little or none, really.
So treble and bass is
treble and bass, you know, moderate difference, but you know, it's not going to change the sound of that amp too much. You know. It does. I mean, it does. Yeah. I mean, you can turn it so it sounds, you know, bad. But I mean, you know, it's like I have a pretty consistent tone setting in which I've sort of ended up with. It's like about presence I like pretty hot, bass about halfway. Mid-range it changes it quite a bit for me, and the treble just usually makes things more piercing. So this kind of, you can back up the piercing with this, and this kind of changes the middle of it around. The middle is on this side of the bass spectrum, or more towards the treble, kind of. And then these, you know, I just kind of work, turning one up more than the other, you know, and seeing which one. I've tried wiring them together, but that, and sometimes it sounds really good. Sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes it sounds best for me just on one when I'm recording. Yeah. But on a few songs, and I don't remember which ones, I had two, and some of them I had one. I think because one eventually stopped sounding good, you know, and then I just went to the one that was still happening. Live, I prefer playing on the 2.
You do?
Because it just gives you a little bit more sound, you know. That's kind of the thing that you start losing when you play bigger places is sound. You know, the fullness of the sound. Whereas I could get a real full sound in the whiskey. You know, ended up not being the same in the, you know, wherever.
Do you find any difference between the treble and the bass channels?
Yeah. I prefer the channel on the right. Is that the treble? I think.
God, I don't know.
Yeah, it's the upper right hand.
Upper right.
Yeah, there is a difference. I find that the bass channel just isn't as hot. Like it was actually meant for bass or something. It's like you lose some highs and it's not as loud. It's not. But God, these amps have been, you know, I mean, they're everything but stock, so who knows what they sounded like before. I might have liked the original bass channel.
They have been worked on?
Yeah, they've been worked on here.
Do you know what's been done, or
I don't know. I don't know the technical. I wish I did know more about the actual technical way. You know, I'm starting to get. You know, it's like I know now that there's a preamp section and a power section. So I mean, I can. So then maybe, you know, then if I find out the difference between putting, you know, maybe another master in here or there, what the difference is there. Maybe later on I'll figure that out, but you know, I don't know.
You don't know who did the work?
Jose did some work on it, and Frank Levi did some work on it.
In the studio, is there a way that you mic your cabinets? Do you know anything about that? Because
no,
on
I
the
leave
EP,
it
sounded like there's like a real distance. It was like a real hollow kind of a sound, like a real Jimmy Page, you know, like which kind of cool. And you know, I'm just wondering if you have any idea how that's done. Or...
Well, that was the EP was, you know, my first experience in a serious situation, attempting to be. I recorded. We borrowed a Lexi from Chris Hager. We had this Lexi splitting up 200-watt heads through 2 cabinets in this room. And it sounded really good in the room. It sounded great. I had a guitar I bought from George.
Really?
Yeah.
That's used on that record?
Yeah.
Was
and he scammed it back. Yeah, he did. Yeah. Anyway, so it was like 2 of these really high. It sounded great, and then we recorded it down. And then I remember later saying that I wanted something more. And what they had done is they put the 2 tracks together to make room for more tracks. So I just had this one fader. I couldn't get any more chorusing or any less or anything. You know, that's, you live and learn, you know. But yeah, it does have a different sound.
Yeah.
And you know, it's like I didn't know, and I couldn't tell you why, but it sure does.
That's different.
Yeah.
I mean, I think even the second record, the Invasion record, sounded different than the first album. I think it was a little different.
It was clearer.
Yeah.
It was a little bit good. I think everybody had a little bit more together. You know, everybody, cause we worked with it was the same lineup, of course, same band, same producer and engineer. We used different people in the mix, but I mean, when we were putting it down, it was the same thing, and it was that album was probably the smoothest recording wise. You know, the least amount of hassles. You know, those come and go, you know, with random precision. But you know, that one was really cool. You know.
I mean, there's some good solos on there.
Yeah, I
thought. I mean,
You're in Love. Yeah, I do too.
You're in Love.
Yeah, You're in Love, and Lay It Down,
Lay It Down was
good. And Give It All.
Give It All was good.
The sound and the way the guitar was playing, everything was it seemed like there was just no problem at all. When I got back to the village, things seemed to not quite go the same way. I just, you know, I just, you know, pretty much just mic'd it up when we recorded Invasion, and it just came out fine. You know, it came out sounding real nice. This time I really had to work on a lot of different stuff. I brought in just a whole bunch of heads
You did.
For Invasion, you know. Just to hassle Bo, you know. for not, you know, for like, you know, he doesn't think one head sounds different from the other. He really doesn't. And he said that in the first one. I said, you know, I want to try, you know, maybe getting a different sound and doing some parts over. And he's like, no way, you know. And you know, so the second record, I had like, I've got a picture of it. It's like, you know, I had like 18 heads in there, borrowing them from.
Do you think it was was it being conscious of the success of the first two records at all? Or do you think it was just physical problems?
No, because when I'm in the studio, that's pretty much the last thing on my mind when I'm in there. Well, you know, the only time that kind of thing comes about is when you're on off time, waiting for it to either come out or, you know, whatever, after the mix, you know. Then when you're at the point of no return, that's when you have time to sort of, you know, let yourself get real neurotic. But no, in the studio, it's mainly, you know, my main priorities are just, you know what's happening right in front of me, you know, you know, whatever problem occurs, sound of, you know, whatever. But eventually, you know, I got it. I think the thing was that in the Village there was more places to put the stuff. In this other room, it was pretty much just one. You know, it was like that's the obvious place we're gonna put it, and that should sound great, and it did. And with the Village, there's a lot of different places you can put them, and so that ends up taking more time, and I start to get bored, and I start to get numb, my ears, and I can't tell the difference after a while, especially at that volume. So I think the more choice I have, the worse off I am.
Yeah.
Sometimes, you know.
Yeah, I can understand that. Would you like to do a thing where there are like a lot of guitars, you know, layering and orchestrating parts, you know, like a Brian May approach, or would anything like that interest you, or?
No, not really.
No.
I like Brian May's stuff. I mean, it's really good. You know, I like listening to it, but I haven't personally had any desire to put on like accompanying parts to go with this stuff. That's never been, because once you start doing that, that's when you're kind of doing things over and over, and stuff like that. And the result is real nice, but I wouldn't have a chance to really recreate it live, and I wouldn't really want to do anything on something that I was going to play live that I couldn't do in its full form. You know, I wouldn't want to do something that, you know, that was missing this or that. So that's why I kind of stay right in. Like usually, I only have one thing of me going on at a time.
Sometimes after you play a solo, you have to sit there and relearn your solo.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, right before we go out, I you know, on the last tour, I had to go out and buy a copy out of the cellar and learn in your direction and back for more. And
really?
Yeah. It's panicky too. It was late. It was almost closed, and you know, oh my God. You know.
You play acoustic guitar once in a while, don't you?
Yeah, I did some acoustic stuff on
Between the Eyes?
Between the Eyes. Yeah.
Do you feel comfortable on acoustic guitar?
Yeah, I love acoustic guitar. If I'm playing, if I'm comfortable with it, if the strings are, you know, I was visiting my brother, and he has this old Martin that my mom got him, like, you know, ages ago, and now the thing is, you know, lived so many different places, and you know, the winters are so cold, and the strings are really high off the action, you know, and I picked it up and started strumming it, and I couldn't play, and like, you know, I just got this sense of like, you know, this guy can't play, you know. This is hack, and I couldn't couldn't tune, and I tried playing, and then it's out of tune hacking. It was, you know, really embarrassing. So, yeah, I have to be comfortable, you know. But I like the sound of acoustic guitar.
You know, the way Townsend used it, you know.
Yeah.
Strums, the electric behind it, you know.
It's just as it's, you know, there's not. I used to think that it was sort of easier to play than an electric guitar. That's not the case at all. It's really hard.
In its way.
In its own way, it really is. To sound good on one, it's just as hard as anything else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What kind of acoustic was it you played?
Gee, getting hard to remember. I think it was an Ovation, maybe?
Mm-hmm.
I remember it was a little smaller in size than like my 12-string, which is a really large guitar. This was kind of a bit smaller. Yeah.
You have a 12-string acoustic?
Yeah, it was called Guild from Guild last year. And I haven't used it yet on anything. But you know, it's yeah, that acoustic was either a Guild or an Ovation.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Robbin does mostly acoustic parts.
Yeah, he likes to play acoustic guitar. He plays acoustic guitar like I'm Back for More and Closer to My Heart, stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't written anything on acoustic guitar, probably because I don't really own one that is just right, that I play a lot,
Mm-hmm.
you know.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, he plays a little bit more acoustic.
Yeah. How do you guys normally record like rhythm parts? Does like he go out there and put down a big rhythm, and you go out there and
Well,
is it?
most of the time, I lay my track down. He tracks to me and everybody. It's like Juan and Bobby, me and Bobby, or sometimes I record with Bobby. I'll just play the part and not have it, go to tape.
Mm-hmm.
Just play along with it. Sometimes, I don't know. Maybe they have it on. I don't know. Maybe they do. Yeah. But he sometimes just play along while he's playing, or he'll track with one. He'll track by himself. But usually Robbin tracks after me, because then he has something to follow. He follows.
Do you do a lot of the writing? When you come in with a lot of the
Yeah, I have done a good portion of it.
You just come in with you write on guitar, obviously.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it starts with a riff, and then it's gotten a little easier because I've gotten so used to Bobby's style that I can pretty much hear what he's gonna do in my head while I'm working, and then I can almost. He's really the test for my stuff. If he won't play it, then I know it's no good. And if he doesn't gel on it, after a while, then it's pretty much let it go for
Mm-hmm.
But then some songs we work up and they don't work, and then much later on they come out, like Body Talk. We had going when we got signed, and
really?
yeah, but it wasn't quite that version, but it was a song that we passed on quite a few times.
Hmm.
And then this year it just worked.
Mm-hmm.
It's really strange. Sometimes stuff comes up, but it's not. We're not. Everybody's not ready yet.
Mm-hmm.
So everybody. I don't like it. So yeah, I come up with a riff, and then we'll work it up, and then Steven gets a tape of it, or comes down and works on it from there, or he'll have a guitar part. And sometimes he'll just have a couple of chords, and then I'll work something up around those chords.
Mm-hmm.
Something he wants to sing on.
You going back out on the road soon, aren't you?
Yeah, December 1st.
Robbin said you were leaving earlier.
Is that right?
Yeah. You had mentioned something. I don't know.
God, that was earlier. It was supposed to be January 1st.
All right.
Now it's December. Yeah, probably next week. Who knows? Soon we're gonna start rehearsing. In a week.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
You have to be pretty satisfied with your career.
Well, I get hung up on the strangest stuff, that kind of, yeah, it should, sometimes I am and sometimes I'm not, but I guess that's what kind of makes you move on.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know that you're supposed to really ever get too comfortable with anything, because then, set yourself up to be jaded, I suppose.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I really work on whatever I'm working on with really pretty much all I have to offer at the time. So that sort of sets a standard for me personally that I have to live up to. There's sort of another one, existing that I have to, that has a standard that I have to keep up,
Mm-hmm.
sort of,
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I mean, I feel good about the music that worked out, but you know, things always come in a bit. You know, I suppose unless you win the World Series or something, you know, things come in a little bit shy of what you had in mind. You know, you know. I mean, it's never really that black and white to, you know, at least with the creative part of me, where it's like, oh, this is just perfect. You know, you know, that's part. I guess that's, you know, part of the dues of being trying to, you know, create something. You know, as it comes here. You know, it's the more, you know, the more I really think about it, things come, you know, come in either left or right field of what I was thinking of in the first place, and people, you know, sometimes end up really liking that. You know, so, you know, so long as it's in there somewhere.
You're originally from Chicago?
Yeah, you know, born and raised there until I was 10, and moved to West Coast, which was a big change.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You moved to San Diego?
Yeah. You know, the whole family lived there for a while. And then when my grandpa passed away, my grandma, you know, moved to the West Coast. And then, you know, as years went by, we ended up moving there so that my mom could kind of, you know, be closer to her, you know. Yeah, that was partially it. I think, you know, that and the, you know, the winter times there are pretty, can be pretty wicked. You know, they really can.
Are you Italian? Italian?
Yeah, my dad was Italian.
So what is your mom?
She's, what does she think of all
Her
this?
little cello playing son now.
She says, "So sure you're going back on the road?" And I said, "Yeah, are you gonna have those big tall things again?" I said, "Yeah, I suppose." Yeah, I don't think you should have those. Jesus. Come on. I'm 23 years old. I'll go up on those things if I want. No, I don't think you should have those. So what are you doing tonight? You going on the show?
To go see Johnny?
Yeah.
No, I didn't get tickets. I had a chance to interview Johnny for Guitar World. Just about this is the country club. I don't know, it was like a year ago, year and a half. When I went to pick him up, we had to go pick him up at his hotel with his manager. You know, they wouldn't drive it. We had to go pick him up. So got his car, went and picked him up. And like his manager, like walked down first in the lobby and comes and looks around the lobby and looks out in the parking lot and says, "Where's the car?" And wants to make sure the car's there. You know.
Is this in the daytime?
Yeah. No, it was early evening. But I guess that, you know, Johnny's so vulnerable and he's like so, you know, they're afraid he's going to be hurt or someone's going to jump him or something, you know, looking at me, he says, "Where's the car?" And, you know, bring the car around here to the light and the whole thing, you know, and then the guy goes up and guides Johnny down because, like, albinos have very bad eyesight, you know, it's like, and he comes down, you know, and, like, he's carrying, he's that little laser guitar, it's like this little,
yeah, they're
you know,
tiny.
those little guitars, and he comes down, you know, and he says, you know, you got to have vodka, orange juice, and Pepsi or something there, you know. He says, if you don't have it, we're not going to come. Plus, he said you had to have like marijuana and some other stuff. You know, I go. So we had all this stuff there, you know. And first thing we do, Johnny comes in and says, "Yeah, can I get a drink?" And it's text, you know. And I swear to God, he made himself a drink with like this much vodka and like kind of wave the orange juice bottle over
Which makes it orange.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. And he sits down, but he was a pretty nice guy. I mean, at times he seemed to get annoyed. Like I asked him a question and. I mean, there were good questions, but he would get annoyed at it, you know, and he'd get like, he wouldn't say anything, you know, I have to find something else to talk about. But he basically, you know, talked for like an hour and a half, but I'm telling you, he drank like almost his whole bottle of vodka, did not get drunk, and smoked and smoked and smoked. Now, like, you know, now he's got like these tattoos on him, you know, and he took off his shirt and was showing his tattoos. Pretty amazing, because I mean, he's always been one of my heroes, you know, but that was so weird.
Yeah.
But,
yeah, he's a trip.
Yeah.
Oh, a guy that was working with me this last year, we did his guitars for a long time.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I didn't know this till like, you know, we were sitting around talking one night. And he says, "Yeah, I think I put on some music or something." "Oh, you know, I used to work with Johnny," or, you know. And it ended up, he worked through him the whole period.
Really?
Yeah.
What was his name?
Gary Douglas.
Gary
Douglas, yeah, great guy. He has some really funny stories like that. Johnny and the Stones, and just all those fun, wild old days,
Because I remember like when those first Johnny Winter records came out, that like when guys were playing, they tried to figure out Johnny Winter licks, and like he was the fastest guitar player. I mean, his
he was.
his way he picked, and it's like if you could play like a Johnny Winter lick.
Right. Oh God, I know. His was the hard. It was hard. Some guys were sort of not easy isn't the word, but eventually you can sort of get. But him, he's got like this sort of picking style, kind of like what we were talking about. I haven't seen him play actually, but I'd be willing to bet that he either circle picks, or he does that. He's got a weird combination because he's just so in the pocket and it's across sometimes. Right. That's when it gets really hard. That's when that one picking style comes in handy, because when you're going across this way, because you can sort of play up and down or across. And I think he's just like just kind of got into the style of playing across, and it's so tuned up, and so it's really hard to play a Johnny Winter look like Johnny did it. Right. You would really have to kind of learn that kind of whatever combination he's using, and it's special. It's different.
Yeah, it is.
So when will you have when will you put this to paper?
There's actually two stories been done here. One of them is for the next issue, which I have to have this thing done by Tuesday. Is like a little I think there's like 6 or 7 guitar players, and it's going to be like a little portrait of these 6 or 7 guys, and it's you and George, Craig Goldie. I'm not quite sure how they came up with the combination, really. Amir, which is funny because it's all San Diego guys. This guy, Paul Gilbert. This guy, Ricky Bernstein, in the band called Carrera. He's a German guy. They just came over here looking for a deal. He's a pretty guitar player. And they're going to put Steve on the cover. I'm going to do that story. He's a great guitar player. I think what he does is really...
Steve?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You like his stuff? He does a lot of the hammering stuff, but it's totally different than what he does.
I don't not appreciate people who do hammer stuff. I just for that what I told you. Yeah. Kind of made me shut with that. Yeah. But I definitely appreciate it.